All right, let's get
You and me
really
both.
into our first topic now. So, how do you cope when somebody in your family is struggling with addiction, whether it's alcohol or drugs or gambling or any addiction? If you've been dealing with a loved one's issues or your own, if you're struggling with addiction yourself, or maybe, like Calum, you've come through and you're worrying about the impact that you've had or you've had it on your family, we're here to listen to your stories. So, do get your calls in now 0207 862 2222. First, though, obviously, you famously have had to deal with your father's alcoholism. And I know that as a child, when you used to come and stay with him, all kinds of unpredictable things would happen. It must have been worrying and scary. You must have felt like the caregiver to some extent, even though
Yeah.
you were the child. I mean, you've really lived through this. And now you work for the charity, which is the National Association of
Children of alcoholics.
Children of Alcoholics. Exactly. So just describe a little bit about what it was like then.
You, well, I didn't actually live it day to day because by then my parents were split and I was living in the States. But I remember, coming over at a really young age, one of my first trips, probably like 6 or 7 years old. And you don't really come to grips with it or understand what's going on until maybe I hit my teenage years, maybe a little bit younger. But all of a sudden you're in the pub every day. That's the meeting point. There's certain times in the day where you can catch people at certain behaviors and in better moods. And, it's just to get a little bit deep on it, when I look back at all of it, I forgive all the badness that comes because I want to feel good about the relationship. But during the time, there's this real counter of being proud of all this incredible stuff, but also being like, well, why is it this way? And why is it so bad this way,
But I mean, I know there was one occasion where you were just kind of left in a hotel room.
Yeah.
And your dad was so deeply addicted to alcohol that you couldn't have known whether he'd ever come back
Yeah.
or what to do or whether you get any food or what was going to happen to you.
I remember do I share? Yeah, we openly speaking on the Vanessa show, aren't we? I remember there was a time when I was probably about 14, 15, and I'd come over and my dad's local was the Feeney Arms in Chelsea. But back then it was like a rundown place. And I always used to think, why do you want to be in this place? But he was quite old school and like real Northern Irish, hard, sit in the corner, play his cribbage, drink his booze. One day this Irishman shows up, this kind of hard Irishman. And I remember looking at him and going, you're not someone you want to mess with. We went around the corner to play pool at the this other pub. And I'm very grateful because now I love pool. It was one of the things my dad taught me growing up in a pub, right? But anyway, my dad and his pal get in a fight with this guy in the street. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what's going on here? I'm so young, but at the time I loved it. It was all this entertainment. So we go back around to our local. I go use the bathroom. I hear this big old kerfuffle. The guy who they've gotten a fight with has pulled his van up. 5 people have jumped out, beat everybody up. The police come. And I remember it was the first time, I shouldn't say it, but I got a little nod being like, don't you say a word. And I look back at it now and I think, God, imagine a 15-year-old kid in the pub getting in a pub fight. But that's what came with, and I'm sure many people can relate at home. And if you get this and you understand, give a call in because we'd love to talk about it. But
Absolutely.
it's some of the troubles that come with the illness and the traumatic experiences of having an alcoholic parent.
It is this thing of you having to some extent be the caregiver.
Yeah.
You're watching, oh my God, I'm in the loo. What's going on with my dad?
Yeah.
Will he come and let me out of this hotel room? Is he going to end up being taken away in a police van?
Yeah.
What's going to happen to me? That kind of feeling. And
Yeah.
of course, when you're 15, it's okay. If you're 3 years old,
Yeah,
you're
of course.
completely powerless.
Of course.
It's not funny. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And you don't, I mean, you hear people coming back from school and they never knew whether their mum or dad was going to be compos mentis or lying in a pool of vomit, whether they would have fallen down the stairs, whether they were, as you say, getting a fight. What the heck was going on? And so, the people that you talk to in the charity must share with you this deep-rooted kind of love for the parent, but also to some extent you must feel like, oh my God, why didn't you get some help so I didn't have to go through this for years?
Well, I think as you can tell, I tell these stories as some of them might be as traumatic as they are with a smile on my face because there's a real conscious thing in me to let people know of how proud I am of my old man. But there's also a reality of I had an alcoholic parent and it was hell at some times.
Yes.
And what my work through with NACOA, who you mentioned there, National Association of Children Alcoholics, has led me to find out is that it's being dealt with all over the place. And just like an addict as well, just like somebody with addiction, it can be anybody. And I remember my old man used to say to me, I really want to show people it's not just an iconic footballer. It could be the post office, it could be the little worker, it could be whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
And I found out that 2.6 million kids in this country are dealing with problems at home with parental drinking. NACOA alone get 33,000 calls a year.
My God.
So it's a huge topic, but also there's this weird stigma behind it because we're a drinking culture. And I think it's not trying to tell people don't drink, but be aware that if you are and you're heavily drinking and there's kids or in your family that might be affected by it, that can be a long-term issue or affect
So
many.
absolutely,
Yeah.
it's kind of the awareness in a culture which absolutely venerates drinking.
Yeah.
And nobody can stand a teetotaler in this country.
Yeah,
You
totally.
don't drink, people think you're an absolute party pooper.
Yeah.
They don't want to hang around you. They keep, go on, have a drink, have a drink, have a drink. It's very difficult, mixed messages of all kinds. Let's go to Nathan, who's on the line. Nathan, thank you so much for ringing. I know it was cocaine that was your drug and it lasted nearly 2 decades, your addiction. What happened?
Absolutely. First of all, good morning, Vanessa. Good morning, Calum. I hope you're both well. I battled a cocaine addiction for 18 years. I was very fortunate to go to rehab about 5 years ago now, and it simply saved my life.
How did it work? When you got there, what happened, do you think, that saved your life?
So what happened, I mean, I was very much in denial until my second day of rehab. I had a cocaine bill to pay, and if it wasn't paid, then my legs would have been blown off, and it's as serious as that. Day 2 of going into rehab, I had a spiritual awakening, and ever since then, my life has completely turned around.
Nathan, question for you. What was it that happened? Was it the bill, or what was it that inspires you to take the step to go to a rehab? Because I think that's really important for people to either address that they've got a problem. Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely. So the only reason why I went is because the bill wasn't going to be paid unless I went into clinic. So I had to commit to it.
Right.
And the spiritual awareness, that made you think what? That you couldn't do it to yourself anymore, or that you couldn't do it to the people you loved anymore?
When I say about a spiritual awakening, what I mean by that is when you go into a residential clinic, you're very safe. Okay, you're amongst other addicts. It's a very powerful thing. A group of addicts together. It's very relatable. So sharing the same stories.
Yes.
We find that most people in addiction. I got to the point in my addiction where I had nothing and no one left, so it turned me to some very dark places. So people have very different stories. So I've worked with many people within the entertainment, within the media industry that have always had money. So it's never actually taken them, although they've had addiction, they've been addicted to a substance. The money's always been there, so that hasn't been an issue, right? So, but sadly for a lot of people, what happens is it takes them to a place where they've run out of money. They exhaust all avenues. They've gone through the lying stage of, oh, I need to borrow this. Please, can I have this? I've got to pay this. It's always ever going on drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
However, people with, so some names that I know without naming them, some names that I know have never run out of the money. The money's never been a problem.
Nathan, I'm going to have to stop you there, but well done. Amazing achievement. Incredible that you've managed to do this. We're going to be taking more of your calls on addiction. They are flowing in, let me tell you. Did you, like Calum, have to live with a parent struggling with addiction? Maybe it's your child that is doing that right now. Whatever the addiction issue in your family, do call us. We're here to listen. A reminder, your stories of coping with an addiction in your family. Very often the child becomes the caregiver. You know the number. Let's go straight to Christine. Christine, I know you're in the throes of this one. Your son is the person with the addiction. Thank you for ringing. What's going on with you?
I've only just started talking to him after about 3.5 years. He's always dabbled a little bit anyway, but at the moment he's been really bad. I couldn't cope with it. I don't cope with it because I'm anti-drug myself, and I don't understand. It got to the state where he was that bad. I offered to pay to put him in rehab, but unless they know they've got a problem, which he does, but it's like he makes excuses. They lie. He's not the everyday person that you would see down the street, you know, who's homeless. Things like he's got a massively good job. And he just can't seem to stop. And the problem is when he's like not doing anything, he's such a lovely, kind lad. He's done so many things for homeless, things like that, but he just can't get rid of that addiction.
Can I ask you something, Christine? Because there are some people, I'm assuming it's drugs that are his issue, and there are some people who think that they're winning, that they can do the drugs, they can do them recreationally. You know, as you say, your son's still got a great job. He might think that he doesn't need rehab because somehow he's conquering it. He's the guy that can do the drugs, do the great job, and keep it all going. Yeah. So you know, there are lots of people who think that, and it's very rarely, unfortunately, true, isn't it?
You know what I thought about as well, Christine, and it might not be relevant to you, but I was wondering what his age was, because sometimes, you know, a young man or young woman even can go through this real period of this, of the testing things out, getting caught up in it, maybe going a bit too far and a bit too excessive, but then hopefully you reach an age and you reach a point where you grow up or you mature and you understand that it's not right and it's not good. I know not everybody's blessed to be able to do that, but just in a personal experience, I feel like with age and with understanding of how bad it is for everybody, you would hope you'd fix it to make things better.
How old is he, Christine?
He's nearly 33.
Right, and let me ask you, at work, have they not caught on? They don't realise what's going on?
He's got his own business.
Oh, I see.
Everybody knows him. Everybody knows him.
Yeah.
And so he's charming, he's successful, he's still running the business. Yep. And so when you
Yep.
say you need treatment, you need to stop this, he thinks you're wrong, or he thinks, yes, I will sort it, but not now?
Before Christmas, he started to go to addiction. He had support. So he was a different lad. He was beautiful. It was lovely. It was back to the lad I knew. And it didn't last for long because then he went back again. He had a work to do out and I knew. And I thought, here we go again. And then he spends days on the sofa. He's always poorly. And I just say to him, because he doesn't do little things, he has to go over the top.
Extreme.
So it's not just a bottle, it's another bottle and then whatever else drugs he's doing. And then he spends days on the sofa. He can't move. It's like, this isn't, it's my grandkids that I worry for.
And it must be heartbreaking to watch. You don't want your son suffering. Is it true in general that you have to hit the lowest of the lowest spot in your life to realise that actually you need help?
Well, I think a lot of people do. It's just like if you get ill, isn't it? You don't realize you've got to address it until it's reached a point where you are unwell, But I think, Christine, a positive there, what we can hopefully take from it is that he's conscious of it. He's made that step already in some way. So I'm sure that now he's aware. It could be a continual until it clicks and it really makes sense. And it's a strange one as well. Some people would argue that it's a choice that person's making. Some people would also argue that it's an illness, So I'll just use my personal experience. I found that if I approached, let's just say, somebody who's an addict and said, you need to do this, you need to do that, that little illness inside of them pushes you even further away. Don't listen to them, listen to me. I know the answer for you, which is the illness of addiction, So it's sometimes when you put it to the person who's the addict, it's not easy for them to take it, and sometimes they'll push you away. But as I said, hopefully he can take that on board and make those steps.
Yeah, Christine, wishing you all the love in the world with this, and it's obviously an incredibly difficult situation, as this whole thing is, isn't it? Let's bring in Lisa. Lisa, you were the addict in this story, and it was heroin that you were addicted to, gosh. And your family reacted by disowning you. So what has happened since then, Lisa?
Yeah, they did. I was on it 20 years. I've been clean 15 years on the 10th of April.
Well done.
Amazing.
So thank you very much. Thanks. But yeah, they disowned me. So I've never really spoke to them since either, but it took me I got septicemia and nearly died. And that what kind of stopped me. So.
And now, obviously, the feeling of wanting the drug or the alcohol or whatever it is you're addicted to never really does go away, does it? It's always there. So when Lisa, I know. So when you feel it coming over you, how do you manage not to use now?
I think the biggest reason would be my conscience. It would kill me.
Wow,
that's
an amazing thing to say. Wow. Really?
Yeah, I won't be able to live with it. I'd rather live without heroin than live with the conscience of doing it again. I just couldn't go back there. I can't.
That's amazing to say.
Yeah, exactly. Very glad to hear that it's worked out and ended in a positive for you as well. It's so unfortunate sometimes that it takes people that last step, that last risk of death or trauma or whatever it might be to turn that corner. But it's great that you have, so we appreciate you sharing that with us.
Certainly do. Congratulations, Lisa. Well done. Amazing. And Mary is on the line, and I think she's got a lot in common with you because Mary was brought up around alcohol. What kind of effect did it have when you were a child, Mary?
Basically, well, for me and my sister, my dad was a very proud man. And he used to, I wouldn't know, he would hide it. And he'd say, I'm not an alcoholic, I don't wet the bed. And my mother, he'd go to the factories and he'd be working so hard and, functioning, bought his house. businesses, garden centres, and like I said, I saw the alcohol take everything from him, yeah, and gambling too. Me and my sister would sit outside the gambling shops and we watch him, and he'd be inside spending all his hard money on the gambling machines, and we'd be banging on the
And how old
thing.
were you then, Mary, you and your sister? When
About
your sister...
13, about 13. And my sister's a bit younger than us.
And I know it's horrible remembering it, and I know it's difficult to talk about, and I can't thank you enough for ringing. But when you're 13 years old, you're sitting outside and you know that your dad is gambling away the only money you've got, and there are going to be horrible repercussions for your family, but you're 13 and you can't really do anything.
And I'm banging on the windows thinking, why are them people letting him take the money for one? And I know that the money's gonna go. He's worked so hard, and then he's gonna go home and he's gonna be so depressed. And we were so sad. It's so sad. And I used to ask, don't bring my dad, like, don't let my dad in there, you know. And it's like they take people's vulnerability. And yeah, it was so sad.
So you must feel, Mary, Calum must feel some kind of kinship with you. I mean, you didn't sit outside a betting shop necessarily waiting for your dad. Oh, you
sure did.
He did. I thought I wasn't sure, but I thought maybe you did, because your face, suddenly your face changed a little bit there, because I obviously could really feel that story.
You can picture it and you can understand. And first of all, I'm really sorry you went through that. And I know this is a really weird thing to say, but you're not alone in that. You know, it's when kids are in that moment, they feel like they're no one else to talk to, no one else understands, they're embarrassed, traumatized, whatever it might be. But the more and more people openly speak, like you've just done now, that what you've done now will help other people know that they're not alone. So take what you've been through, try to channel it into something positive. Even calling in today will hopefully, help you get it off your chest. But I think, it's a very common thing here and no one really addresses it. So I think these conversations help a lot.
Yes, and thank you very much, Mary. But it's also true, isn't it, that you hear the pain and then the tears, and however many years have gone by when you start
She's still...
Yeah. Very, very much affected by it. And I could see, I mean, you didn't burst into tears at
Yeah.
all, but I
Still
could see you suddenly went kind of a bit paler and a bit kind of, your face changed.
It's because the little moments that you think about, the addict doesn't want to admit they're an addict. And I remember moments where, it would be try to be hidden and you catch it and you're like, why is there, if you think it's all right, why are you hiding it? And then also little things of the bookies and the betting shop. And it's just, it's such a long topic, addiction. It's such a tricky one to maneuver. But my goal, just to touch on that, Vanessa, quickly, is with NACOA to help the children. It's like, we're really lucky that adults can come in and share sometimes, but the goal is to make sure that kids don't go through the same. And places like NACOA that are like a hotline, for example, she could have called them to discuss what she's feeling and going through. All
right. If you've been affected by any of the topics that we've discussed so far, and actually it's quite hard to listen to this and not be affected by it, there are resources available to you. You can head to channel5.com/helplines.